So we've just finished our third week back at the legislature this spring, and I really appreciate the people who have been watching my weekly commentaries and the people who are commenting. I know a few of you asked about my water bottle. It is a glass water bottle, just to be very clear, and I've been using it for a number of years, which we need to do here at Queen's Park because we have lead pipes here. So I fill that bottle up frequently throughout the day. I had two questions this week, and it highlights one of the reasons I fought so hard for changes to the standing orders to give independent members more participatory rights. So some of the independents were unable to make it this week, so I was able to take their question, hold the government accountable on important issues. The first question I asked was related to midwives and the pay equity case that the government is appealing. The Ontario Human Rights Tribunal has a ruling that says the government should pay midwives in an equitable fashion, which completely makes sense to me. And I'm deeply disappointed the government is appealing that decision, and I asked them about it. The second question I asked, the basic income pilot project that the government canceled last year, breaking their campaign promise not to cancel it. And the main thing I asked the Premier, because a report came out this week showing that most people who had jobs kept their jobs. Many people were able to obtain better jobs, and also people had better health outcomes, which will ultimately save the government money. I asked the Premier to keep his campaign promise, reinstate the basic income pilot. Received a clear no, unfortunately, but I will continue to advocate for better policies to support the most vulnerable in our communities. This week, the government announced their new mental health strategy, a roadmap to wellness. And while there are many aspects of that plan I support, the one thing that I'm highly critical of the government on is the plan needs money behind it. This government cut the previous government's mental health budget by around $300 million. They added $20 million back this week, which just isn't good enough for so many of the members of my community and communities around the province where people are desperately seeking mental health services. The wait list for youth seeking mental health services has more than doubled in Ontario since the Ford government came into office. I believe that's unacceptable. The Financial Accountability Officer had a report again this week showing that the government has underspent their budget by $2.5 billion. And the underspending really affects two, I think, important areas. One is spending on healthcare, particularly capital spending for healthcare, which I think is wrong given the hallway medicine healthcare crisis we're facing. And the other area is funding for autism. So here we have so many families struggling to provide services, to seek out services for their children with autism. And the fact that the government has underspent that budget is just unacceptable as far as I'm concerned. I have a number of opportunities to give member statements. And so this week I gave two. One was a shout out to everyone who participated in the coldest night of the year walk to support money for Hope House. And I use that also as an opportunity to push the government to invest more in supporting housing. I also gave a shout out to the KELP students who moderated the climate town hall that we had a couple weeks ago in Guelph, and just to use that as an opportunity to really push the government to take action on the climate crisis. We have a number of receptions at Queen's Park every week, and I won't go into all of them. I speak at a number of them, but three in particular really meant a lot to me. So one was with social workers and just the important role that social workers play in providing mental health services, dietitians, and just the importance of making sure we all have access to healthy food and a healthy diet. And HRAI, which is an organization that supports people who are doing energy efficient HVAC renovation work primarily, just to talk about how we can create jobs, address the climate crisis, and help people save money by saving energy at the same time. And finally today, there were a number of private members' bills debated, including one where a government member is basically saying that unproven nuclear technology, small modular reactors, should be part of the government's clean energy climate plan. And I spoke out against it because how can this government say that they're wanting to address the climate crisis, which they say they are with SMRs, with a technology that almost every expert you talk to says won't be ready for commercialization in 10 years. The bottom line is we can't wait 10 years to take climate action, especially when we have lower cost, cleaner solutions available today with today's technology. This government is canceling renewable energy contracts at prices that are lower than any expert says SMR prices will be. So here we have a government wanting to invest in unproven technology that won't be available for 10 years. I see it as a delay tactic to avoid taking urgent action on the climate crisis and to provide cover for the fact that they're canceling contracts for wind and solar at far lower prices than what SMRs will be. We need a climate plan that's going to address the urgency of the action and invest in affordable, low-cost, clean solutions. I'll talk to you next week.